news begins anew on Studio B today. Investigators now say they've charged 5 gang members with running a prostitution ring that recruited high school girls on Facebook. New details coming up. And the lawyer for Trayvon Martin's parents says that police just released the smoking gun. Have you seen this videotape? We'll look closely at it and let you decide. It shows the self-described neighborhood watch captain George Zimmerman right after he claimed he killed Martin in self-defense. Remember, he was beaten and the nose broken and bloody. Remember? We'll get to that with the lawyers. Plus, U.S. and South Korean forces stepping up the pressure on the North with new military drills. So what does this mean? It's all ahead unless breaking news changes everything on Studio B. But first, from Fox at 3 o'clock in New York City, the Republican-controlled Senate today blocked the president's plan to cut billions of dollars in tax breaks for oil companies. Just moments after the president said the companies raked in record profits last year. According to President Obama, the 3 largest oil companies in the United States made a combined profit of $80 billion in 2011, or $200 million per day. Also, according to the president, ExxonMobil alone pulled in nearly $5 million per hour. President Obama said these companies have no trouble standing on their own and that it's high time for Congress to cut the billions of dollars in oil and natural gas subsidies and spend the savings on alternative energy.
Investments in wind power and solar power and biofuels. Investments in fuel-efficient cars and trucks and energy-efficient homes and buildings. That's the future.
And just moments after the president spoke, most Republicans in the U.S. Senate, along with 3 Democrats, blocked a measure that would have killed those subsidies. So they live. Congratulations. Ed Henry with the news. He's live at the White House this afternoon. Ed, the president's remark come as gas prices across the country just keep going up.
That's right. And Shep, he was basically using the Rose Garden to channel some of his campaign rhetoric about how everyone deserves a fair shake. You ran through some of those numbers. Another one the president mentioned is that every time gasoline goes up a penny, quarterly profits for these oil companies go up about $200 million. And he basically said, this is wrong. It's time for Congress to end it.
One analysis shows that every time gas goes up by a penny, these companies usually pocket another $200 million in quarterly profits. Meanwhile, these companies pay a lower tax rate than most other companies on their investments, partly because we're giving them billions in tax giveaways every year.
A handful of Senate Democrats disagreed with the president, sided with the industry, as well as siding with Senate Republicans to continue these tax breaks. The president also didn't mention that as a senator in 2005, he supported over $2 billion in such tax breaks. Yeah.
True. And Ed, with us having this enormous budget crisis and this enormous debt that Republicans are complaining about day in and day out, why would they want to give money away to the oil companies which are making so much money? Pray tell.
It's a good question. What they say on the Republican side is basically that the president has been committed to lowering gas prices and says that in an election year he would never support raising gasoline prices. But there was a recent study by the Congressional Research Service, they're nonpartisan, that basically said if you end these tax subsidies, it's going to increase taxes obviously on the industry, and then it's likely to raise gas prices. Here's Republican Senator Mitch McConnell.
Somehow they thought that doing this would set up some kind of political win for them, which frankly I don't understand. I mean, I can't imagine anybody giving them any high fives for not lowering gas prices. But anyway, that was obviously the plan.
So the bickering continues, the tax breaks continue, and so do the high gas prices. AAA now saying their national average has gone up 20 consecutive days, inching closer and closer to $4 a gallon.
Politics, a fascinating game. Ed Henry at the White House, nice to see you. Let's bring in the chief business correspondent for U.S. News and World Report. Rick Newman is with us. Good to see you again. Thank you.
Shep.
So forgive those who say this smacks of, if gas prices stay high, it hurts the president. So Republicans block the oil subsidies.
I'll forgive them. There's all sorts of rhetoric, obviously, about gas prices these days. If these tax breaks would affect gas prices, it's only marginally. I mean, it's other things that affect gas prices. And the biggest thing now we know is the threat of a war with Iran, which has probably pushed oil prices up, let's say $15 a barrel, maybe $20 a barrel. I think something else is going on here. I think these tax breaks are going to die sooner or later. But if you're a Republican in the Senate, you don't want to just give them away for free. I think you want to get something for them. And one of the things that I think is coming, not this year, but perhaps next year, is we're going to have corporate tax reform. Corporate tax rates are probably going to come down. And I think this is a chip that Republicans can play then and say, look, the president has actually said he'll accept lower corporate tax rates in exchange for getting rid of some of these loopholes in corporate welfare. So that's part of the chess game I think that's going to happen next year.
That's very interesting, you know, because on the surface of it, the optics of this, what it looks like to continue tax subsidies for the oil companies, they're not perfect.
The oil companies it might even be better for them to say, you know what, we don't want these tax breaks anymore. It's not worth the trouble. You know, it's about $2 billion a year. The 5 companies that benefit made about $116 billion in profits last year. So it would bring their profits down by less than 2%. Now, if you're a CEO, you can't say I'm going to give up 2% of my profits. But at some point, you know, stopping being vilified by the president might be better for the oil companies than getting this small tax break from Washington.
Oil prices are down again today, and I hear some people predicting that oil prices are going to continue to go down.
It's all about Iran at this point, I think. I mean, you know, people are driving a little bit less, so people are doing all the things they need to adjust to oil prices, and everyone's just waiting to see what happens if Iran. So there's this expectation of conflict. If that conflict doesn't materialize, it just is going to sort of take the air out of oil prices. Not way down, but I mean, I think we could easily see oil back around $3.50 by Election Day.
Oil prices.
Gas prices.
And gas prices. And oil prices down significantly.
Yeah, they'd have to be below $100 per barrel. But look, Obama's no dummy. I mean, he is not going to just keep pushing oil prices up all the way through November.
Yeah,
if he can help it.
If he can help it, and it would certainly. This is helping Iran. For them to go down would hurt Iran.
Yep.
Rick, it's great to see you.
Thanks, Shep.
Thank you. Just getting word of some breaking news coming into Fox News Channel, and this is an apartment fire that's going down about 5 miles east of Cleveland, Ohio. Lyndhurst is the town. Authorities on scene of an apartment fire in Cedar Road that has residents of the Sherry Park apartments evacuating the building. Neil Durbin with First Energy tells Fox News, actually Fox 8 News, our affiliate there, that a waterproofing contractor struck and ruptured a gas line. That punctured line then sparked the blaze, which has spread to the apartment building. The police there have evacuated some homes around it. Right now, no injuries reported. As far as we know, everybody got out of there. But where you can see where the gas line is down there, and they're working to put that fire out. Updates as they come in here on Studio B. First newly released surveillance video of George Zimmerman. This aired first last night on World News Tonight on ABC. And this is raising questions about the account that George Zimmerman gave of what happened the night he killed Trayvon Martin. Here's Zimmerman coming up, arriving at the police department for questioning at some point after the shooting. Remember, the 28-year-old claims Trayvon Martin attacked him first, punched him in the face, slammed his head into the sidewalk multiple times, and broke his nose. Now look at his nose and look at his head, and you decide. We can't know. We don't know everything, but we have this video, and you decide. He says it left him bleeding. Police say paramedics did treat Zimmerman at the scene, so it's possible he was cleaned up by the time he got to the police station. But from what you can see here, watch now, he'll walk into the building, and there'll be shots of him inside, I believe, yes, and there he is, and there he is. He's wearing the red jacket there. So that's what we have. There is no gauze, you decide if there are visible signs of injury. You can DVR this back if you want, or whatever you want to do. It's online, too. Zimmerman never went to get checked out by a doctor at all. He said he didn't want to go to the hospital. But his father is speaking out on camera for the first time, and he told our station WOFL, Fox News for Orlando, that not long before this video was taken, his son was fighting for his life. Zimmerman's father's face is hidden, according to our local station, to, quote, protect his identity, unquote.
Trayvon Martin walked up to him, asking, do you have a problem? George said, no, I don't have a problem, and started to reach for his cell phone. At that point, he was punched in the nose, his nose was broken, and he was knocked to the concrete. Trayvon Martin got on top of him and just started beating him. In the face, in his nose, hitting his head on the concrete. He continued to beat George, and at some point, George pulled his pistol and did what he did.
Shot and killed him. He says he has no doubt the person screaming for help on the 911 call was his son, not Trayvon Martin. As for the dead child, his parents believe it was their son. And they say that surveillance video proves, in their minds at least, that Zimmerman is lying about what happened. Phil Keating with the news. He's live in our South Florida newsroom. There's some question about when exactly this video was recorded, but there is a timestamp on there, right?
Yeah, however, that timestamp may be inaccurate, but more importantly, the special prosecutor for this case, who knows the answer here, well, their office refuses to clarify what time it went down, citing this case as an ongoing investigation. But based on the initial responding officer's first police report, it's probably about 1 or 2 or 3 hours after the shooting that we see George Zimmerman walking here. But even if it's 4 hours afterwards, combined with how Zimmerman visually appears on camera, well, that is just inflaming Trayvon Martin's parents, an attorney, and outraged others around the country even more than they already were.
It is clear that this police report claiming that he had a broken nose and blood on the back of his head and his clothes messed up is clearly a fabrication. And I believe in my heart of hearts that they're going to arrest George Zimmerman after this evidence.
Now, several neighbors in that gated community called 911 that night, hearing the commotion and the yelling for help. Exactly who's the one yelling? We're about to play it, so hold on a second. George Zimmerman, a Neighborhood Watch activist, has not been arrested or charged with any crime. He claims self-defense under Florida's Stand Your Ground law. Now, as for that yelling for help on the 911 calls, here it comes. It's either Trayvon Martin or George Zimmerman. Here's the tape.
I can't see him. I don't want to go out there. I don't know what's going on. So they're sending.
So you think he's yelling help?
Yes.
All right, what is your phone number?
Just there's gunshots.
It's hard to say. Just like the newly released videotape of Zimmerman, you can see it, you can hear the 911 call, but everybody can come up with their own conclusion, and a lot of them are going to differ. Now, as for the special prosecutor's investigation and review of this case, it is ongoing. However, State Attorney Angela Corey says she is now inclined, most likely, to not go the Florida grand jury route, but instead, after full review, make the decision herself whether George Zimmerman should be charged with any crime or should not be.
You wonder whether this video surveillance tape would be admissible.
A lot of people have been speculating on that today because of the way it is and the importance of the case. If, say, example, she takes this to a grand jury, it seems likely the grand jurors would actually see and watch this tape.
Well, we'll get to that with the lawyers in just a second. Phil Keating, thanks. That is the topic with our lawyers in just a moment. What does this videotape tell you, if anything? Is there enough there to sway your thoughts? Will it show up in a court of law? The lawyers are here next. This is Studio B at FNC. Nice to have you in.